Well, my name's Pete Leyden, and I have really spent my entire career focused on figuring out the future of, let's say, the near-term future, relatively near-term future from the next 10 years, the next 25 years. And I spend my entire time doing this. I started as a journalist. I've gone into kind of working with pioneering strategic foresight companies. I've worked with the Long Now Foundation, which is the premier place to thinking long-term. I've done tons of keynote speeches around the world around my thinking. I've written books on the future. I've basically advised C-suites and boards in America, the United States, as well as Europe. I spend all my time thinking about the future, and so for this, I came to you, this crew, who doesn't get that opportunity, doesn't have that opportunity to really think systematically and more comprehensively about the future, and so I laid out my thoughts about that here. I have literally spent the last 3 years, you could think, in a global project, talking to experts around the world, going through reams of data and trying to think through systematically what's going to happen in the next 25 years and to what extent we can actually solve climate change. To what extent can we actually get a handle on global warming and adapt to climate change in time to really stay within the boundaries we need to do. And in my opinion, it is possible, it's ambitious, but it is absolutely possible. And in fact, unlike the gloom and doom that most people feel around this issue, unlike the kind of way most people are just in despair about what's happening, to my mind, we're opening up a great era of progress here. It's totally within our capability to do this, and I have systematically looked through this and laid out to this group how we can pull this off, and how it is not only how we can theoretically, but how in fact it's happening around us now. How many of these new technologies are hitting tipping points and starting to take up an exponential uptake, clean energy, electric automobiles. We've literally moved the entire global auto industry now into going as fast as possible to electric vehicles. We've seen how solar cells are now getting cheaper than coal. They're scaling into exponential growth. There are possibilities to really do this, pull this off in ways that 10 years ago, it really was a kind of a distant possibility. But it's happening now. So there are many aspects of what I would call the positive reframe of the next 25 years. Instead of a bleak future, we're actually moving into a time of great progress. And one thing to really think about here is that we are going through not one world historic technology boom, which we went through in the last 25 years through digital technologies, but we're going through three. There's the next stage of infotech through AI and all these kind of new things that are going to be happening, driving tons of growth and giving us very powerful new capabilities to stitch the planet together and kind of ramp up our pace of innovation. We're also going through this world historic shift to clean energies, something that in the next 25 years is going to be a world historic shift. If you can't make money in that kind of boom and see that kind of through that kind of scaling, you're going to have it'd be hard not to make money in this kind of space. But also what's happening now is we're actually breaking through in biotech and what they think of as genetic and biological engineering. We're actually moving into an era of synthetic biology, something that's going to have a lot of repercussions on essentially making sustainable everything. In other words, when we can actually engineer living things, when we can actually genetically kind of make materials that can supersede, plastics, take the place of plastics. We can engineer meat through what you could call cultured meat, where you can do it much more efficiently, much less kind of damage to the environment. There's all these kind of things that are just beginning to happen now. Startups are starting to do it. They're starting to scale in ways that people don't really fully understand it. So we're going a triple-barreled, long boom of economic activity, which from a kind of a business sense, which is a lot of you folks have the business side, that's one side. But the other side about it is these have very positive implications on how we can, in fact, get a handle on climate change, how we can dramatically slow global warming, how we can really transition to this next era of possibilities. And that's really just within reach here. But my message was not just about these tipping points happening in technologies and this kind of economic boom ahead of us. But in fact, I would say a lot of the challenges we faced in, let's say, the democracy of America, our political polarization and paralysis, a lot of these things, I also have an analysis there that with the generational change from as the boomers retire and frankly die off, and the rise of the millennial generation, and behind them this Gen Z that are very aligned in values, they're very climate focused, they have a very different set of values and priorities. This is the crew that's going to dominate essentially American politics and Western politics and politics through the world, they are essentially going to, I think, in my opinion, are shifting to a different kind of politics that's going to have a much more kind of 60% majority driving towards the kind of world that, in fact, is going to make this climate world happen. It's not going to be the divisive, polarized world that's not getting anything done now. So even there in our politics, in our society, how our kind of world is going to evolve beyond the technologies, we're actually moving to a place that I think is going to be much more positive, much more filled with progress. It's going to be the kind of thing that essentially we should be very hopeful for, very energized by, and we should get at it. That said, is we're going to, in this tipping point, we need essentially the capital that can move quickly and with longer term and patient kind of capital, the liquid capital to make these things happen, to work these junctures through, to actually make all this come together and accelerate at the pace we need it. This is the kind of thing that the folks in this network could do, and we hope you will do this. And if you want to know more, you should watch the longer talk where in a half hour I can blow this open. And beyond this, I hope we can keep learning together as a network over time. The thing that gets someone like myself interested, really excited about the opportunity with these family offices, is that the world is at a point where we really need to move fast. To move fast, you need to move capital to where it needs to go quickly. Government works slowly. Government money is also used, it can scale and is literally has the kind of oomph to take things off. Venture money has a business-oriented way to think about it. But what family money, office money could actually do is kind of go to places that actually have the potential for real economic benefits, business benefits, but at the same time have social impact, can actually do the things we need to do and do it fast. There's only one crew. Whoever runs that family office, whatever the family wants to do, you can move it quickly. You don't have to get it through Congress. You don't have to get it through all these different kind of hoops that you have to jump through. So at a moment when we need to move quickly, and with climate change, we have to move quickly. We have to scale. We need this kind of money to go to where we need to go fast, get these things in motion, start the scaling so that the government, that venture, the business world, for their own kind of economic reasons, can kind of fast follow. So it's a critical role, and it's one that you really need to take advantage of. And it's something that really you're uniquely positioned to do, and you should take that responsibility fully because we need you. We humans on the planet right now, in this difficult situation, need this kind of visionary use of significant size of capital to actually move as fast as we possibly can. Again, as an outsider, not necessarily part of this community, although wanting to help as much as I can, what struck me was what the core issue that's going on in these family offices now is essentially the boomer generation, the ones who kind of created the wealth or are managing currently the offices, are handing off what they're doing to their children, which are mostly the millennial generation, or someone, let's think of it that way. Those are the two giant generations in American history, the two giant generations in European history as well. And that transfer has epic shifts. It's affecting how the culture itself is shifting. It's affecting how politics is going to shift as we essentially trade power, hand off kind of potential influence throughout that society, between these two giant generations. And so I think what's interesting about this effort here is to truly understand with more nuance all the different ways that transfer happens. Yes, there's wealth transfer, but it's also some continuity between the values, different kinds of values, different kinds of emphases. And at this juncture, you're at the exact moment of the handoff as this is happening. And it's only going to get more increasingly dramatic in the next 10, 20 years because the boomers literally are going to die off. And this wealth is literally going to transfer, and the millennials will step up into essentially the implications of where they want to move that money. And so this transfer between, this handoff between the generations is about the most important thing you can do in this offices right now. And it's something that I think is a critical thing, not just for these families, but for the society. As I mentioned, we need this transfer to actually go smoothly. We need it to actually be effective, and we need this next generation to really grab the ball and move and take off.